Welcome in everyone to Fantasy Farm Sports. I am your host, Jack Stash. We've got Liam Sagarian with us today. How we doing, Liam?
Jack, my man, I'm excited to be here. It's been a while since we've hopped on a pod together, so I'm excited to get to talk to you. I'm excited for the NFL draft tonight. I'm excited for the next 2 months of playoff basketball. It's really a good time of year, man.
It is a good time of year. The flowers are finally starting to bloom. We got a lot of different sports this time of year. It's not just football, it's not just basketball. You've got horse racing, you got golf, you got all these different things going. Baseball started up. We've been covering baseball on the channel, but we're here today to specifically talk about the NFL draft.
Let's do it.
Um, you know, I guess let's just talk about the top three teams, right?
Cool.
Tennessee Titans, Cleveland Browns, New York Giants. They all, to me, they all need to draft a player that not only helps their franchise, but helps sell their franchise.
Sure.
Right? You can't just, I love Abdul Carter. And he was really fun to watch at Penn State, and he was good, and he was great for their brand. But if Tennessee or Cleveland drafts him, it doesn't make their teams any better.
hmm
That's Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter is going to be a great player in the NFL. But I mean, after week one, after week two, who knows? I don't know. They'll talk about him in training camp and which positions he's playing, which positions he isn't playing. But at the end of the day, you need to draft a quarterback in these positions because you failed miserably so many times.
Sure.
You know,
Absolutely.
um, there's word out now, I believe, that Tennessee will be taking Cam Ward. Do you like that?
You see, I like the Cam Ward pick for Tennessee for a couple reasons. One, I think that they really haven't had it right since Ryan Tannehill, and Ryan Tannehill kind of fell into their lap right out of the situation in Miami. So, when's the last time that Tennessee has really drafted a guy that they like really had actual belief in? It was Mariota, and you watch Mariota for more than a year and a half, and you understand that it's really not going to be going anywhere with that. So you have to go even further back than that. I think Cam Ward and to your one point about putting butts in seats, I mean Travis Hunter, no matter where he goes, is going to attract fans, even if he's just like a B minus on both sides of the ball. But Cam Ward, I think, much more so than Will Levis, like in draft profile, but also in makeup, is like the biggest beacon of hope that I think Tennessee has had since I guess that AFC champ, but like they didn't expect to go to an AFC championship game a few years ago, being a wild card. So like heading into a season or heading into an era, whatever you want to call it, I think Cam Ward represents the biggest beacon of hope, the biggest light at the end of the tunnel that Tennessee fans can say that they've had in a while. And they have a new stadium coming in, so that's going to help sell seats as well. What better way to promote your new stadium than a young up and coming quarterback who's really ascending in the league? Of course, it's the tougher conference to be in as an ascending quarterback, given all the dudes at the top. It's definitely easier to be a young rising quarterback in the NFC, like you saw with Jaden Daniels. He can be at the top of the conference in a year. You can't really be at the top of your conference in the year in the AFC. But I think more so than Travis Hunter, who's not a quarterback, and more so than Abdul Carter, who's not a quarterback, and I'm a Cam Ward guy over Shador. I think that he, like I said, he represents the biggest light at the end of the tunnel that Tennessee fans have really had in a while, especially coming out of the draft. So I think it's the smart, safe pick, especially for first-time GM Mike. I don't want to get his last name wrong, but I think it's Borgonzi, who came over from the Kansas City Chiefs. So it's an important pick for him to make. It's a pick that if you take Abdul Carter number one overall and he doesn't pan out, then you're going to be, scrutinized for that pick for not having taken a quarterback. But if you take the quarterback and then he doesn't pan out, well, I mean, it was your first ever pick as a GM, and you tried to do the rightest by your franchise by taking a quarterback. You'll hopefully have another bite at that apple. So I think it's the safe pick. I think it's the right pick, and I think it's the pick that's going to do the fans the most good. And I think we've seen in the past couple months following the Luka Doncic fallout, it's very important to have your fans behind you as an executive. I think Nico Harrison might agree with that too.
Well, it is, and but by the way, I think that like Will Levis for Tennessee. Let's talk about their quarterback real quick, right? Because to me, Cam Ward is just he's just crickets. I mean, he lives in seven. He is. I mean, it's not that he's boring. It's just he lives in 7 to 8 second pockets. And by the way, so you're gonna lose 5 seconds just getting in the league. That's a huge deal,
Sure.
right? I would rather take, a lot. I would rather take Will Howard out of Syracuse. I mean, Ohio State didn't have a great offensive line, and he had to battle through some things. I would rather take Shador Sanders for sure, because your biggest problem with Will Levis isn't arm strength. Your biggest problem is that behind that offensive line, he runs for his life. Cam Ward will be too, because he plays hero ball. And Shador Sanders processes the best out of all of the quarterbacks that are coming out. I mean, that's his biggest. Levis process is a little slow. Okay. And arm strength isn't everything. It really isn't. If you could throw the out, which all these guys can do, I mean, what are we trying to do here? I mean, Joe Flacco's throwing pillows at the age of 39. You can get the ball across. You just need to know schemes. And for my money, right? Like Tennessee needs eyes on the franchise, positive eyes, right? It's Nashville, it's country music. That's what Tennessee is. And I think that if you bring Shador Sanders in there, right? He elevated Jackson State. They were good, they were not great, but people watched. And then he went to Colorado. Colorado hasn't been good since Cordell Stewart and their Heisman Trophy winner, Rasham Salam. Hasn't been good
Mhm.
since then, right? He went over there. It wasn't great all the time. I think we could admit that. People watched. In fact, Deion Sanders, when he went to Colorado, they were like, "Hey, look, man, we can't guarantee you with this huge salary, all this stuff." He goes, "That's fine." He goes, "But when ticket sales go up," he goes, "I want a percentage of the increase." That was his paycheck before he got this whole contract deal that he just got. He was getting ticket sale increases.
Yep.
People are going to watch. No one watches Tennessee. And if Cam Ward starts off 0-2 and has no pocket presence, because he really hasn't had to. I mean, listen, behind that Miami line, you could figure out a 100 yards game I can as well. I'll dump it off. I'll find a slant. It's not going to look as pretty as he made it look. But I don't believe that Cam Ward's going to be successful early. People will stop talking. They won't care. And that is an easy division to win. I think CJ Stroud in Houston's great. I think I never loved Trevor Lawrence. I never loved him. I didn't love him because during the COVID year, where he had a leg up over everybody, I watched him throw a pass in the game, and a Boston College linebacker popped up and caught it. I went, "That's a problem." You never saw him. You never saw that guy. He's from Boston College. This isn't, your Doug Flutie's Boston College. They're not getting the real talent in there. This wasn't even Bill O'Brien's Boston College. Threw a pick right to him. And the bells went off. You're so talented. You're ahead of everybody in this year. And you threw a lazy pick to a Boston College linebacker.
Mhm.
Ugh. And then you got Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson fighting for Indy's job. I mean, you could literally put and make Shador Sanders your franchise quarterback. And all of a sudden, everyone's talking about you, at least for the first 3 years.
That's an interesting point, and shout out to my friends here at home. You brought up Will Howard from Ohio State, national champ, a Downingtown, Pennsylvania product, comes into Green Street Grill all the time. Yeah, great guy,
He
great
could
guy.
throw.
Shout out to the champ. He's a good player. I'm excited to see where he goes in the fourth round. But but but
That's
back
looking very nice.
but back to your point. Like, yeah, you take Shador and you're talked about in whatever light that you are talked about, depending on how the team's doing, depending on how he's doing. Do you think that part of the drawback would be any extra, I don't know if baggage is the right word, but any extra drama or noise that could come with Dion on the outside, and be it that Shador hasn't had another coach aside from his father since middle school, that number one, and number two, if at the first sign of adversity and at the first sign of uh, maybe Dion thinking that Callahan isn't using Shador in the right way. Well, Dion's the type of guy who can, say something about that and like have it hold weight. Unlike I don't know, Patrick Mahomes is or Jalen Hurts is or really anybody else's father who doesn't have any pedigree in the league. I mean, Dion's a huge figure when it comes to football. So if he thinks that his son isn't being used in the right way, and this could go for any team that drafts him, it's not just Tennessee. He's probably going to comment on that. He's very vocal and very critical outwardly, and he has been for a long time. He that's just his personality, and it's not to his detriment. It's just how it is. So I think whatever coaching staff that takes on Shador is going to have to inevitably also take on some of Dion's criticism or speak within the media and figure out a way to navigate that as well. So do you think that that is any drawback to Tennessee or any drawback to any team that is looking at Shador?
I think it's a great point. I do think it's Dion. I watched. If you guys get an opportunity, right? I don't. Not everybody's rich and has $10 to pay for Amazon Prime like I do. But I watch Amazon. I watched the Coach Prime thing on
Mhm.
Amazon. I don't know if you had an opportunity to
I watched a
look
little
at
bit
any of
of
that.
the whole thing.
Okay, you did. You watched the whole thing.
No,
And
just a
Deion
little bit,
Sanders
not the
is.
whole thing.
Yeah,
Sorry. I said I watched a little bit, not the whole thing.
Deion Sanders is a coach now. First and foremost, I mean, he's a father, yes, but I believe that all of the noise that he's been making lately is on purpose. I think he's trying to kill his kid's draft stock. Deion Sanders is all about going to a good franchise. He talks about it in his old draft. He's like, I walked out on meetings. He goes, because I was like, these fools don't even, didn't they watch me play? I don't need to learn your playbook. You ain't even drafting me. And that was a lot of how he is. The greatest story I've heard about Shador Sanders was this guy came on this talk show and he was a taxi driver. And what's interesting about the story is he said, he got to take Shador Sanders around for a couple places. And he goes, the phone calls for which he took in my cab were all from his brother, Shiloh.
Mhm.
And Shiloh was saying this and that. And he goes, well, listen, I don't care what you need to get done. Be there 15 minutes early, like dad says for you to be there. He goes, otherwise, he goes, we're going to have a conversation because he is his brother's keeper.
Mhm.
He had to maintain and get Shiloh to meetings, make sure Shiloh was doing all the stuff and extracurricular that he was supposed to be doing. If you watch all this lead up to the draft, Dion was mentoring his other son. He goes, this Shador's good. He's good. And after he got off the phone for his last time, he apologized to the cab driver. Hey, I didn't mean to be on the phone all that time. That was awfully rude to me. He left a nice size tip and he said, thank you so much for letting me use your vehicle for the day. So all this unprofessional and hack cat backwards, I think a little bit is on purpose. And he's talking himself out of bad franchises. I think
Mhm.
that's part of it. I think the other part of it too is the only nice thing that he had to say about any NFL team. And he said it and it kind of went away. And he said it very subtly, but he goes, Mike Tomlin reminds me of my dad. Oh, does he? Oh, does he?
There's been a lot of that buzz.
An endorsement of somebody. Oh, really? And by the way, from what I've heard about, Shador Sanders, he's there all the time. He's there early, he's there late. He's throwing. People talk about pocket presence and all these things, the sacks he took. I don't think he had to take all those sacks. I can see open wide receivers, but he wanted to spread the ball around to everybody. Look, I'm dancing now. To everybody so that he was able to get all of those receivers drafted, not just Hunter. He wanted to help Horn out. Another thing he did that my guy did as well during their pro day is he threw for those receivers. My guy's Baker Mayfield, in case you guys are wondering. He didn't have to throw for those guys. He didn't have to stick around. He didn't have to do any of those things. It's the intangibles, it's the work ethic that will drive you in the NFL. 60-yard pass or 70-yard pass, that's not going to eliminate you. Cam Ward has a stronger arm. Who cares? I watched this little conversation between them, and Cam was like, well, I'm competing against you. And Shador says, well, that's great. You can compete against me. I'm competing against the other quarterbacks in the NFL. He doesn't really, it's Cam Ward's not on Shador's radar. And I think wherever Shador goes, they'd be lucky to get him because he's going to be there the whole time. And although he doesn't have the biggest arm, once upon a time, Ryan Leaf had the strongest arm. And the draft grade on Peyton Manning was that he had a third round arm. And if he didn't have the last name of Manning, he'd probably go in the 4th or 5th round. I mean, it could be a little bit of history repeating itself. By the way, they're not talking about Cam Ward's going to go first. They're not talking about Cam Ward dropping. They're not talking about draft picks being traded for him. They're talking about Shador Sanders. They're talking about him. That's all they're doing is talk about it. Nobody talks about Tennessee besides country music. Nobody talks about the Cleveland Browns besides that rapist that they hired. I'm sorry if the word offends you. The action should. And the New York Giants have a huge NFL problem right now because there are players that don't want to go there because they believe that they can't evaluate talent well enough to pay them and keep them. Remember, they paid Daniel Jones, didn't work out, and they let Saquon Barkley walk. There's a scout and agent problem in New York. Now, if you can, I don't know, put Shador Sanders with, do the Giants even have a good receiver? I don't know. They're in your division.
They seem to always keep on re-signing Darius Slayton. They do that every year. They don't have Sterling Shepard anymore. I think your guy Baker was throwing to him last year. Am I wrong?
How about this kid?
Yeah, no, he's pretty good. I mean, I didn't want to say anything. Malik Neighbors is very, very good.
It's a rookie card, baby.
To me, it's a beautiful card. To me, Malik Neighbors, I think, is a very, very, very impressive talent. But I'm not sure if he's going to be the type of guy that is absolutely taking over every single football game on a week in and week out basis. Not that, only a few receivers do, but to me, heading into this year, and it's only the second year in the league, but at least for the next 2 or 3 years, to me, maxes out at the third best receiver in the division. And while that is still a very good player, what is it in comparison to AJ Brown and CeeDee Lamb?
I mean, I'm just saying, can we at least in New York have something to root for? I mean, the Knicks figured out Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, right? They figured out something, right?
But they didn't figure out coach. Probably going to get rid of Tibbs in a few weeks' time, I would imagine.
Well, I actually think they made a mistake with their lad. They should have probably kept DiVincenzo, but that's me. Even the other team in New York, right? The other team in New York who is not Buffalo because Buffalo's got figured out. The other team in the city, the Jets, right? Everybody goes, oh, I can't believe they. First of all, they signed Justin Fields to a running back contract. Don't believe me? That's what Barkley got. 2 years, $40 million. That's what they paid Justin Fields. But they also did something very smart. They paired him with his college teammates. They paired him with his college teammate, the kid from Ohio State, right? His name's escaping me. Huh? Garrett Wilson. That's right. They paired him with him, and I think that was a good move. By the way, player on the move possibly tonight. Rumor just came through. Breece Hall could be on the move. Would you like to know where I think he can go?
Let me take a guess. Oh, it's going to be such a random guess.
All right, it's fine. I'll give you a hit. Top 10 pick.
Top 10 pick. Breece Hall. Let's go with the Giants.
All right. Listen, that's fine. It's fine. I don't think it's going to be the Giants. Pete Carroll loves battering rams. And he loves running backs that control games. And I don't really believe that he's going to be the ultimate say. I don't think he's really sold on the Gentry kid. The Gentry kid's fine. But if they can give up that pick for Breece Hall, now you got a problem. Because Breece Hall is a super talent. right? And the thing that Pete Carroll loves to do, by the way, is he loves resurrection cases. He loves doing that, right? Nobody thought Russell Wilson was any good. I do. I'm drafting him. Nobody thinks that. Oh, you know what? Give me that kid from Buffalo. Nobody thinks is good too. By the way, what's that? Marshawn? Yeah, I think he can break tackles. Bring more. He's into those projects, and Brees Hall had a tough season. The rest of the Jets did as well. I just think that it's interesting. We got a couple hours until the draft. That name has popped up on several sources.
That is interesting, and it speaks to a larger picture of what do we think the Jets are trying to accomplish. But I really like that Raiders idea because I do think that would, depending on what the Raiders have to give up for it, it kind of could knock out two birds with one stone. Because if you pick up the running back via trade, and I mean, it's going to cost you the first round pick. But if you can get another asset on the back end, then you got your proven commodity for your first round pick, and you picked up something else in the aggregate that can help you fill out another hole in the team, as opposed to just taking Genty in the first round. And what I think about Genty is, and I
Yeah,
feel the
here's the
same
thing
way.
about Chanty.
I feel the same way about. Well, I think he's kind of like a I think athletically and like skill wise, he's kind of like a poor man Saquon, but he's not like a poor man. He's just not Saquon. Um, I think he doesn't have. I don't think he'll have like the outfield or the outside open field burst to get around tackles the same way that Saquon does. I think he'll be effective in doing so. I just don't think he'll make it look as like easy and seamless as Saquon does. The thing that I think about Ginty is we've only seen one running back over the last 10 years like be able to run through the muck consistently every game year in and year out without great offensive line play and be a great running back, and that's Derrick Henry. It's Christian McCaffrey never really did it effectively with a bad offensive line. He was actually very hurt a lot in Carolina, and he was hurt this
Yeah,
past year when the Niners didn't have a good offensive line. Saquon had a good rookie year, and Saquon's skills like in the open field and when he bounces to the outside are unlike anything we've ever seen. But Saquon going through the middle for all those years in New York wasn't the greatest running back you've ever seen. Derrick Henry is the only guy who's been able to do that through all those long slog years in Tennessee of having mediocre lines and just being able to power through. Gianti's not that guy, and the Raiders' offensive line's not in a place where I think that Gianti's going to be at his most effective. I think it would be the right pick for the Raiders to sell on their fan base. I think the Raiders fans would absolutely love that, especially in wake of not having Josh Jacobs, who had a very good year in Green Bay. But I just don't think that it would be the right team building maneuver for the Raiders.
no.
Even though but yeah, not at all.
So no, not at all. And in fact, I can sell Shador Sanders to the Raiders. We're getting in, right? We're in Vegas, baby, right? That stuff that you said about Deion Sanders would work for him. By the way, Dad's not so far away that we couldn't, talk to him. Okay. Yeah, I understand that Chip Kelly's a finicky offensive coordinator, but I don't think he was really brought in there as much as he's going to be the offensive coordinator, yes, and he's going to run smart plays. Shador's going to understand them, yes. I think that he was in there. Remember when Pete Carroll jumped from college to pro? He had an extreme advantage in that draft because he knew all the guys.
Right.
Well, he's getting that in Chip Kelly, and I think he may listen. He's not up at all hours now chewing gum, figuring out all of these guys. He went, Chip, give me a sheet. I'll look over the guys, but I want a sheet. You coached against them this year. You had to scheme against them. I want a sheet of guys for which I should be looking for. And I do think that, Shador can. By the way, Geno Smith's on the back end. They signed him a 2-year deal. That doesn't mean anything. That means zero. That means
Right.
Geno's useful this year, and we'll see if Shador's ready at some time or the other. By the way, Geno, not the healthiest of men, gets banged
Sure.
up. Smart quarterback, though, and absolutely ruined the beginning of his career. At another outside the locker room instance with the Jets. People don't know this. Geno Smith said that he would do a quarterback camp for one of the players on the Jets. And it turns out he ended up sick that week. So he didn't come down to Texas to do the quarterback camp. And he never gave the guy the money back.
Really?
It was a dumb thing. He admits to it. He should have gave the money back. He really was sick, all this other stuff, but he didn't give the money back, and he bristled that the guy even wanted it back. Bang, lost the locker room. It was over there. It was done. People thought that was a football thing. People were catching balls like this, throwing them to the ground because they didn't want to deal with Gino anymore. How do you go from a 70% thrower, which by the way, Shador is, at West Virginia, to not being able to complete a pass for the Jets? We just forgot how to put the ball in the hands. No, they were throwing the balls to the ground because they hated you. Again, another reclamation project came over to Pete Carroll, and Pete Carroll heard about that, called him in his office day one and went, "Hey, that stuff that happened in New York, we don't do that here. I'm happy to have you. Russell's my guy, but I will give you an opportunity to show off what you have." And Gino fell in line and did what he had to do, and he's made a career out of it. But any
Mhm.
missteps that Shador might have, Gino's there to actually mentor him. He's only there for 2 years. I like him to go to the Raiders. I think that there's tremendous opportunity and upside with a kid that can see the play. That gives his that gives it every throw he makes, he gives his receiver a chance to throw it, to catch it. Receivers like that. You also want guys raising their hand to go play with you. It's a big deal.
Yeah. I think I think it would be a good pick for the Raiders, and like to use to your point, Dion's noise might be more beneficial to them. Well, hey, at the first sign of Geno Smith's struggle, and Dion's talking about why his son isn't playing, maybe you get the murmurs going a little bit quicker in the Sin City. But I mean, I'm a big aesthetic guy, and I think Dion would look pretty. I'm sorry, Shador would look pretty slick in the Raiders black and silver. And I mean, like to the same point, I think Ashton Genty would look pretty good in the Raiders uni still.
He would, but and that's the other thing too, right? So if and that's you do want Shador to go to a place that has a coach, right? You do not want your kid to go to a place that has Tommy Callahan's brother coaching it, right? In Tennessee. Kevin Stefanski at one time didn't manage a number one pick very well in Baker Mayfield. There's proof of that because of what he's done in Tampa. I mean, 41 touchdowns says you're not washed up. What it tells me is you're running a terrible offense for the kid. I mean, you don't go and throw for 41 touchdowns and go, yeah, he really couldn't play.
Hmm.
That's the craziest thing. That's the craziest statement ever. And, if you go to the Giants, I don't mind the Giants because Brian Dable made Josh Allen comfortable in the NFL,
Hmm.
right? And then that's how we got the New York Giant job. I
Yes.
wouldn't mind that. But I mean, Dion's gone on record. He likes Pete Carroll. He thanked Tom Brady for the time he took with his kid. He enjoys Mike Tomlin and some of his coaching rhetoric. Like Dion's gone out there quietly, very quietly, and gone, yeah, there's guys I like out there. I like this guy. I like that guy. All of his stuff that he says, like, I do believe that this whole jersey retirement in Colorado was an absolute smokescreen. Why did he do it this week?
It's
Because
a good
he's
point.
smart. Because
Yeah,
he's smart. That's right. Oh, his kid's entitled. He never really did anything. Colorado didn't have a good record. They should. Cordell Stewart was better than him. What gives him the right? He didn't do it. Colorado did it. His dad asked him to it. And he asked him to do it 1 week before the draft. That's a little too convenient for me.
sure.
He's trying to kill his kid's draft stock. And if you're the team that is dumb enough to not take the kid, you just sold yourself down the river. To me, there's so much money in the Sanders name. It's more than Peyton Manning. There's so much money in the Sanders name and talent, by the way. I can't believe how teams are going to pass him. What? Because some scout doesn't think he's very good, or he wouldn't have been. They said something crazy the other day, like that he had an attitude in the meetings. Yeah, he doesn't want to go to Cleveland. Yeah, he doesn't want to go. Oh, Jacksonville was talking to him. Yeah, he wants to hang out behind Trevor Lawrence. I mean, by the way, huge arm, hasn't really done much in the NFL. So the arm doesn't matter to me as much as the acumen and the sports knowledge. I just, I know that sounds like I'm banging the drum for him, but like I'm trying to make your franchises money, guys.
Sure.
Can we sell some newspapers here in Tennessee about our football team? How about Cleveland when the weather's terrible, right? Is it going to matter how fast and athletic he is? Not really. Not really at all.
Sure.
You're going to need a guy that boosts morale. Actually, who he reminds me the most of? He reminds me a little bit, even his attitude. He reminds me a little bit of a Ken Griffey Jr.
Okay.
He kind of just reminds me, right? Like he doesn't say much. He doesn't really want to say much. Yeah, I'll do well, my dad he's kind of dismissive, doesn't really want to do the media thing. I think he can. And I think he'll get much better because that's part of the pro game.
Sure.
But as far as he can't throw the ball 90 yards, what do I care? Joe Milton can throw the ball 90 yards. He can't find a starting job.
Yep.
Them going and talking about the arm strength, and then nobody wants to give up a third round pick for Joe Milton, to me is absolutely insane. You're actually lying.
No,
Right?
definitely. Definitely. I mean, arm strength surely like isn't everything, especially when you figure that most of the quarterbacks can get the ball where you need to get the ball. It's just not maybe in the speed or the aesthetically pleasing fashion that you want it to, like Josh Allen's football cutting through a tornado. But like,
There's no tornadoes on the field. They would stop the game.
well,
Right? There'd
that's
be lightning somewhere, right? We'd have to get underneath the bleachers, right? You're not going to just leave Josh Allen out there and going, you know what? They told us to go underneath the bleachers, but he's been said to throw through a tornado. Let's
well,
watch it,
he
honey.
could probably Josh Allen could probably fight a tornado, but yeah, Josh Allen, I mean, like the way that he throws the ball, like I mean, like that thing, he has the strongest arm in the league when you want to take into account like how fast he can get the ball that far downfield. But like it doesn't matter because Joe Burrow can get the ball that same spot downfield. It's just going to get there 1.2 seconds behind. And if Jamar Chase is open enough or Joe throws it with enough anticipation, which he does very much so a lot of the time, I mean the ball's still going to get there. So the arm strength factor isn't really a thing unless we're talking about 2015 Peyton Manning, in which case he was just a dinosaur and had been through the ringer with his neck and all the injuries leading up to that point. And the only reason that he came back for that run was because Brock Osweiler was so atrocious that they had to put Peyton Manning back in, and then they won the Super Bowl. That's of course the story tale of how it works for everybody.
I love the Brock Osweiler bring up, by the way, because it's like John Elway's like, all right, who's the tallest guy? All right, well, he could see everything. Let's just take him. And then we're gonna pay him, by the way. Right? Yeah. I know your Tebow won back in the day, and he took us to a playoff game, but he's not tall enough. Let's get the tallest guy. Let's get the guy with the strongest arm. Why? Well, he could throw 90 yards. Well, wait, okay. How much time is he gonna need to have a wide receiver run 90 yards? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. One of the greatest draft stories and toughest opponents Tom Brady said he ever played against was Chad Pennington. And Randy Moss glows about the ball he used to throw. And it was a 40-yard ball. He said he threw pillows. Like, you have to be able to get the thing to land. You could throw rockets. Anthony Richardson's a fantastic quarterback. Oh, wait, he's not, is he? No, he's terrible.
He is when you look at the arm strength.
Yeah, I know. If we just measured who could put the football through a wall, I mean, we'd have a lot easier time here. It just drives me crazy because I think that there's not so you're looking at it, or some of these people are looking at it from a football perspective, but you have to also look at it from a money perspective.
Mhm.
You need, I mean, it was almost valuable for a team to take a Johnny Manziel. They talked about Johnny Manziel for 3 years.
They did.
Remember that?
They did.
They're not going to talk about Deion Sanders' kid for 3 years on ESPN. By the way,
They will.
Tennessee can't buy a primetime game. Cleveland, I mean, my God, mothers won't take their daughters to the game because of all the stuff that happened there. The Giants, I know that they get primetime games, but Giants fans, just close your eyes for a second. I want you to think about this. Think about your division. I know he's terrible, but Dak Prescott will throw 30 touchdowns healthy. Right, Jalen
Yeah,
Hurts just won the Super Bowl in Philadelphia. Shout out to your team, Liam, right?
that's
And
right.
Jaden Daniels probably going to be a quarterback for the next 10 years. What are you going out there with? You can't sell anything. Daniels versus Sanders. Prescott versus Sanders. First of all, Prescott versus Sanders. I mean, that sounds like a rich country club tennis match. I'm just saying.
Yeah, or a law firm.
Or law firm, right. You've got Hurts versus Sanders, right? You've got something. Or you don't. Or you didn't have the guts to draft a guy that didn't have the arm strength. Or, in meetings, he was a little bristly and I don't want to talk to Dion and his kid. Wouldn't it be great, by the way, to show up in Cowboys Stadium with Dion and his kid on the opposite sideline in Jerry World?
Ooh.
I mean, I could sell this all day for you. It's really easy. You should have brought me to the draft, New York, but you're going to stay pathetic like you've been for the past 5 years. All right, let's draft Daniel Jones. Why? Because he doesn't say anything. Fantastic. Let's draft a guy that looks like an extra on the Munsters TV show at press conferences. Well, I mean, it doesn't work. You need something to sell, right?
Sure. And
you're selling turkeys in July, New York. No one buys them. It drives me crazy. Because you have a real opportunity to capitalize here. And you're just going to sit there and go, well, he doesn't have the arm strength. I can't even. I'm losing hair. I really am.
I mean, it's Joe Shane and company's last real chance to, please the Giants fan base and the Mara family. It like really, I mean, if they're gonna put all of their eggs in one basket and really think about this being the main catalyst and whether they're going to have this same job at this time next year for the 2026 draft, they should probably draft Shedeur. But I don't think that they're going to. I think that they're going to trade back, or I think they're going to take Abdul Carter. And at that point, I would probably fire Joe Shane on the spot. But then you can't reverse the pick.
I want to do this, right? So Abdul Carter, right? Abdul Carter is a great player. Okay, he would start on Tennessee, and he would start opposite Myles Garrett on Cleveland. That's great.
That would look nice.
That would look fantastic, right? And it's great because that defense is going to be on the field forever. Actually, I don't think Cleveland's going to take a quarterback because I think they're going to live with the Kenny Pickett reclamation project. I really do. They brought in Flacco to help the kid. I think that's a whole thing in Cleveland. So if you Cleveland fans are trying to get excited about something, it's that. But that defense is going to be on the field forever. My whole point is that, you're an Eagles fan. Would Abdul Carter even start in Philly right now? No, for real. That defense, would he start?
If you take away take away Nolan Smith's pec injury, probably not.
Okay.
If you were playing a game today, probably yes.
Okay. But, as a healthy squad, Philadelphia brings back all their guys healthy. He's not even on the field. You're going to draft a guy that can't even make it on the field for the Super Bowl champions. I mean, it's just it's insane to me that everyone's going to move on the. And by the way, if he ends up in Pittsburgh, I mean, then you get Burrow, Jackson, Sanders, and Pickett. And I know Pickett's not going to look great in that whole lineup, but at least Pittsburgh has a guy that looks great in that lineup.
Right.
He's going to be thrown to DK Metcalf. Oh, he doesn't have good arm strength. That's cool. That's fine. I got a freak of nature over here. He'll just throw the ball to and stiff arm everyone to the ground. That's what DK Metcalf is.
Yeah.
By the way, another thing that just came through. Sorry, I know I'm keeping you. George Pickens on the chopping block.
That doesn't surprise me one bit.
It doesn't.
At all.
But would you use him to move up?
To take Shedeur Sanders?
Yes.
I'm looking at the draft order right now, and I'm trying to see where a nice little sweet spot would be. So the Steelers pick at 21.
I don't think, by the way, I want to say this, and we're getting ahead of ourselves here while you move that over, right? I think we're getting ahead of ourselves with what I'm going to say, but I need to say it before everybody from ESPN and Fox is like, oh, New Orleans is not going to draft a quarterback. New Orleans is going to go. They're not, and they're not because their new head coach doesn't want to. I think he's going to be a good head coach. By the way, it's not that they're going to live with Carr one more year. They still have Spencer Rattler. They could do that whole back and forth. And next year, they're going to have a higher pick because they'll be awful again, and they'll take Arch Manning, who once upon a time Archie played in New Orleans. Did I paint that pretty nicely?
I think he played that. Yeah, I mean, I think that makes the most sense. And
Yeah.
shout out to head coach Kellen Moore, offensive coordinator of the Super Bowl champion Eagles.
But we
But
gotta wait a year. We gotta wait a year. So New Orleans does not. Everybody's like, well, you think New Orleans? No, I don't think New Orleans. I like the thought process there, but New Orleans fans are gonna have to just one more year, take a breath,
yes,
deal with what you have. I call him Derek Bicycle. I've never had a car run that bad or look that bad or be injured all the time. Right? Like I've had bad cars. I haven't had a Derek car. I've had a Derek Bicycle, but I don't think he's very good, but he'll get you through to one more year. And then the fan base will be, what are we doing? And Manning will be pasted everywhere. So I don't think they take Sanders.
Unfortunately, their cap situation is messed up until about 2027. But then they can look forward. I just hope that they give the regime a fair shake because there's really nothing that they're going to be able to do for probably 2 years now. But
Well,
I'm looking as
Moore will
far
be
as
quiet this year, though. Moore will be quiet. And Moore will go, okay, if
oh,
that's our
definitely.
plan, if that's our plan, I have a contract here. You're going to let me get the kid. And they're going, yeah, we're going to let you get the kid. But that's the plan in New Orleans. You guys need to, listen, it's not going to be your year. It's not going to be a great draft for New Orleans, but just please get off the bridges and the mountains. Home Depot's closed. You can't buy any ropes. I'm just trying to talk down the New Orleans fan base right now.
Mhm.
Um, you're like, well, that's probably they're on bridges everywhere.
They are.
Probably
I'm looking
check
at
that Ben Franklin for me.
I'm looking at the teams that could take a that could take a quarterback now in front of Pittsburgh, and really after the teams that we mentioned in the top 10, like if the Raiders don't take Shador, and I think the Jets might I don't think the Jets are going to take a quarterback, but like I think that I think there's like the slightest possibility, but I
What's
think
his
you're right about
Madden
the
rating? I
Saints
don't
not
think he has a
doing
Madden rating, though. That could be part of the problem in New York. You gotta
That's
have a
fair.
Madden rating.
That is fair, but the Panthers aren't, the Bears aren't, the Niners, Cowboys, Dolphins, Colts probably aren't, Falcons aren't, Cardinals aren't, Bengals aren't, Seahawks might. And I think that's where Pittsburgh is going to have to try and make a move. And I don't think that Cincinnati in front of Seattle is going to deal with Pittsburgh. So I think that Pittsburgh is probably going to start having to look around the 15-16 range with Atlanta and Arizona if Shador were to fall past that Jets area.
Do you know why that's interesting? I can't believe you mentioned that. I just as you said it, my bells went off in my head, right? Because that's their trade partner already. DK
Where-
Metcalf came from Seattle.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they gave up for him, but if they need to move up with Seattle, that's where George Pickens and that pick will go back to.
No. Move up ahead of Seattle is what I'm saying. I think Seattle's a real opportunity to draft Shador if he were to fall to that range. I mean, like
That's
you have Sam Darnold on a get offable contract, right?
yeah.
I mean, like you have Shador, chill for a year and then hit the ground running next year in Seattle. I think Pittsburgh needs to move ahead of Seattle.
Oh, you don't think they could swap with Seattle?
I think Seattle might be interested in the quarterback. I think they have other holes to address, but I think Pittsburgh should operate under the notion that Seattle's a team that could take a quarterback. And if Shador's on the board, who else are you going to be taking in that spot?
Well,
Um,
Seattle's terrible. Seattle has terrible Sam Darnold. That's what I have coined him as well.
mhm.
And he's only been good with a top tier wide receiver. Now we can agree that George Pickens has top tier temper and very good talent. Right? So if you move him over
Yes.
with Sam Darnold, Sam Darnold is a blank canvas, doesn't really say much. So he can deal with the guy screaming in his face the whole time, which George Pickens will be. But it's the only way Sam Darnold can have an opportunity to work in Seattle. Now, you bring over George Pickens. I don't know. Pittsburgh gives you back that third pick as well. So they move Pickens and the third pick. They got Metcalf for that. They move up and you take Will Howard behind Sam Darnold. We did something.
Shout out to Will Howard. Shout out to
Listen,
Will
I think
Howard.
Will Howard's got real talent. I think he could play. I also think that kid out of Syracuse. I actually like. I know that nobody likes Ryan Day, and by what I mean by nobody, I mean everyone he's
Ohio
ever met.
State fans.
Huh?
Ohio State fans.
I no.
The guy wins a national title. He can't please them.
I'm gonna explain. No. It's not even the Ohio State fans. So Penn State lost their defensive coordinator. Fun story for you. And then I know we got to get off, but fun story for you. So Penn State lost their defensive coordinator, head coaching job. Penn State calls up Ohio State's defensive coordinator. He's in the building. They go, "Hey, you want to come coach at Penn State?" He goes, "Yeah."
Yeah.
Signs a contract. Then they lose Chip Kelly the next week to Seattle.
Hmm.
Like, nobody likes Day at all. They were like, "Get me away from this dude." But he did a really nice thing. Wasn't for Will Howard. Who did he have the year before? And then he went to
McCord.
Syracuse. Huh?
McCord.
McCord. Right. So he goes to McCord before he brings in Will Howard. He knew he was bringing in Will Howard in the transfer portal. And he said, Kyle, he goes, I looked at your transcript here, and it showed that you wanted to go to Ohio State, but you really liked Syracuse as well because you're from that area. And he's like, yeah. He goes, but I chose to come here. He goes, well, I'm bringing in a guy that's going to start over you. He goes, and I already called the AD at Syracuse. They'd be happy to have you. And he went, really? You did that for me? Not to me. The people think, oh, these coaches, what they do, and these players, what they do. He did something for the player. Now, his coaching staff and everybody else hates him, but he did a really good thing for that kid in a time where you don't have to give notifications to really anybody. You put it on your Twitter and you're gone. That's what we're living with here. But I
Hmm.
thought that was nice that Day did that. And it'll be great when he gets the head coaching job somewhere else after this year because nobody likes him at Ohio State. Nobody.
Hey man, well at least he got the one chip, right? Maybe this year he can beat Michigan finally and get back in some sort of good graces. But I think Ryan Day is a good coach, and I've always thought that his disdain from others was a little overblown. But um,
Won a chip, lost a chip.
a lot of people would kill to be in the final four, let alone the final two twice and having won one. That's my little parting shot for the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh my gosh. Any last thoughts before we get out of here? I know we're past your time.
I think it's going to be a pretty interesting draft. As far as I think there's going to be a lot of motion and trades. From an Eagles perspective, I don't think it would be shocking to see Dallas Goddard getting traded tonight, whether that
Oh,
be in a move up or in a move back to acquire more assets. I just think they've been beating around the bush so much with him and his contract this offseason. It would make a lot of sense. If it were to be in a move up style, I don't think that they would be moving up to trading a tight end to move up in order to draft one. But I do think that
this is
a
sad.
non-Howie move that is slowly becoming more of a Howie move is if Colston Loveland falls. I think there's a real chance that Howie might take it right there as a best player available type approach. But I think it's going to be a big. I think it's going to be a big draft as far as motion is concerned. Like I said, keep your eyes on Dallas Goddard, along with the couple names that you said are on the block. I'm gonna my boldest prediction of the night. I don't think that the top three teams right now pick in that order. I think one of them will make a trade down at least.
Real. All right. So who do you
Not
think?
not Tennessee. So I think Cleveland. I think Cleveland and the Giants will trade down.
I think it's all right. So I'll take the shot then. Before I'll say Cleveland's gonna trade down because there was so much love for Drake May last year in the New York building that they were doing everything they possibly could to trade up and get him.
Hmm.
Some people saw Dable shopping at Home Depot for kitchen sinks to throw at teams, and nobody wanted to do anything. Um, but I don't think it's New York. I think that there was a scout out of Miami, and this is why Tennessee's going to take him. Scout out of Miami said that Cam Ward will be drafted by the New York Giants. This was months ago, and that Brian Dable will be fired at the end of this year, and that the offensive coordinator from Miami is going to coach the Giants next season. And I don't know if that's still on the table if Tennessee takes him, but the Giants have to do something. I mean,
Right.
really, I think we've shaped out their best draft right here.
Yeah, we might have, man. We absolutely might have. And you know what?
You
John
won't
Mayer
like it.
John Mayer at this point should hire us. Not that I want to work for a rival, but I do want to work obviously in the business. Joe Shane's not it, John Mayer. Hey, we've done everything for you here. Our contracts, are you can reach out to us at any time. I'm happy to take over the war room next off season for you and the for the Cold Blue up in New York.
Do you know what it says on my resume? Actually, it's pretty people don't think this is effective, but it's got me most of my jobs. And people always live and they look over my resume, they're like, "Why would you put that on there?" It says willing to be underpaid. And really, I think that's what the Giants are looking for is a guy that's willing to be underpaid, but do the job very well. They don't have that now.
It's another interesting note I'm writing down. Learn a lot of things from you, my friend.
Willing to be underpaid. Don't write that down. All right, man. It's been great hanging out with you. You want to come back? We'll do this on Thursdays if you want to do this on Thursdays. Whatever. I know you like talking basketball. I get that. We could talk basketball next time, or we could talk Philly sports, whatever you want to talk. Very knowledgeable though. It was great hanging out with you.
Dude, it was so good to see you. Yes, I would love to do this on Thursdays or whenever we can get around to it. We can talk about anything. My knowledge base goes beyond Philly sports and beyond basketball. But hey, the playoffs are rolling around. We can talk about post draft implications and stuff like that. But it really has just been good to see you, man. And it's been fun doing this again.
Good seeing you too, man. We'll talk with you again.
All right,
Guys,
bro.
enjoy the rest
Appreciate
of
it.
your Liam. Do you have anything to pump to push?
Yes, I am currently writing at Philly Sports Network, and that's the sports division of Metro Philadelphia newspaper. We have a great team of writers covering all the sports over there. I'm on the Sixers team, been having a great time despite the Sixers being absolute dog water this year. But please check out our website, check out our content. We do great work reporting around the city, and yeah, it's been a great time my first year at PSN.
All right, that's Leon Segarian at PSN Network. Guys, go check out his article. I actually read his article. He sent me an article. It's a fantastic job that he talked about. He gave you not only the outline of where the Sixers started, but where they have gone and what they need to do in the future. A little lengthy, but it's worth a read. It's a fantastic article, and I was really proud that you sent that to me, and I got the opportunity to read that.
Thank you, man. I
Yeah.
appreciate you.
Absolutely. All right, guys. We'll see you again. Probably Sunday. Sunday will come on. You want to come on with us? You come on with us.
Love it.
All right.